November 18, 2018. Putting legs to your gratitude. Neil Worthington, licensed Unity teacher and spiritual leader at Unity of Payson, Arizona.
Now for a time of stillness. There's magic in stillness. It's there that we know the presence of the divine. So breathe with me. Notice your breath. Let thoughts of the morning, of yesterday and tomorrow drift aside. And just breathe. Just be. In that being, bring your attention to your heart, to the center of your being. Notice the steady beating of your heart. It modulates, it becomes stable, becomes the perfect rhythm, the perfect pace. And you realize it's not only your heart, it is the heart of the divine as well within you. And from that place of stillness, I'd like you to go with me on a little journey. Imagine that you're walking in a beautiful valley. The fields are green to left and right. The path winds along, not too steep, not too rocky. Shade from trees from time to time, sun always. And it's an idyllic journey as you walk along at the perfect pace, enjoying, in fact, having a sense of oneness with all that is around you. And ahead, you notice a rise in the path, then a hill. You begin to climb, and your breath comes a little more, becomes a bit more difficult. And then you notice that it's not just a hill, it's a mountain. The path is no longer so smooth. There's some climbing to do and some walls that seem like they can not be surmounted. But you push on. You push on. You push on. You exhaust yourself until you realize it's not in your power anymore to climb that mountain, and you stop. As you stop, as though a heavenly breeze comes from behind you, and you notice it doesn't go over that mountain, but it turns aside. Turning aside, it flows. And what you didn't notice was that there was a flow in a different direction than what you were intent on going. And you join that flow. And as you do, you notice the cleft in the rock, the way through, and the beauty before and after. And you rest in that beauty. flow because you're willing to allow and turn to the side. So take a break from the journey. Remember all that has filled you. Remember that in turning aside, you moved ahead. And savor that in the stillness. Quietness, blessed quietness, holy quietness, assurance in my soul. You're ready to renew and resume the journey. And so you come back from that imagination to this place, here and now, renewed, refreshed. You're ready to be in the flow, moving forward. And so it is. I don't have any ties. Oh, I think I have one or two, but I don't treasure them. Kind of an odd title, putting legs to your gratitude. Excuse me, I forgot to make it a bigger font. So in order to refer to my notes, I'm not looking down my notes at you, I'm just looking over the glasses so that I can see you. So, let me assume today that you all have some sort of a gratitude practice because this is the month that we celebrate gratitude, and it's something we've talked about a lot here at Unity of Payson. So perhaps you journal and put your gratitudes down every day and learn from that. Perhaps you have a special time when you are grateful during the day. Perhaps you make a point to express your gratitude by giving to someone as the Spirit comes through you, like Maurice was talking about, in a unique way. Anyway, I'm going to assume that you have a gratitude practice and that as you look to Thanksgiving here, you're going to perhaps sit around the Thanksgiving table, grateful for the blessings of your life. These are wonderful times. And we are blessed, truly blessed. I remember that anew in our concert Friday night. If you weren't here, you really missed it. As something that I don't sing very much, but Daniel sang so touchingly at the end of the concert, America the Beautiful. Gratitude for that. You may have learned, like I did, to reply to the question that mothers usually ask, "What do you say, Neil?" Thank you, I say. Perhaps because someone has been kind to me. Perhaps because they just loved me for the sake of it. And perhaps because they gave me an outright gift. So that part of gratitude we're all familiar with. And hopefully all the events like that show up in our gratitude practice as well. But we could do that kind of automatically and mechanically. But I'm going to assume you're not doing it that way. So we are thankful for things that happen. We're thankful for sometimes even the somewhat murky waters that we get into, where we know we should be grateful and we give a nod to gratitude. But it's hard to do that with a full heart. So today I'd like us to talk about how to allow gratitude to work for us and optimally bring it to the fore in our lives. You remember the 5 principles of unity if you're a unity person. If you're not, unity is not very theological, certainly not dogmatic, and we see truth perhaps in a somewhat different way than may have been the teaching of your youth. At least that was true for me. So in those 5 principles, there's the 5th principle, which in 2 words is expressing God. We think of ourselves as an expression of the divine. And so we realize that that is our purpose, to express God. We realize, in fact, that is the reality of our life. And when those principles were first formulated by Connie Fillmore, the granddaughter of Charles Fillmore, one of the co-founders of Unity, here's how it was stated. Knowing and understanding the laws of life, also called truth, is not enough. A person must also live the truth that he or she knows. So let's take and apply that principle to gratitude. Knowing the truth. So what is truth? Well, in Unity, we don't suppose that any one of us, or even the board, or even some sort of spiritual counselor can tell you what the truth is exactly for you. Because the divine expresses through each of us. We all have that innate connection with the divine. We are of the divine. We are a true expression of the divine. And truth for us comes from within, and it comes out a little bit differently for each of us. So there is no list of rules. Are you happy about that? I am. But we do hold many things to be true. One of them, primary and my favorite, is that God is good. God is all. God is all good. Now, you may or may not like to use the term God. For some of us, that's something that comes with, it's a little tough, and so we may choose another word. We may choose source, or we may talk of spirit, or my favorite, all that is. So, all that is good for me, in my parlance. That's one of the truths that we hold. But being, as we said, an expression of God, created in the image and likeness of God, we also are divine by nature. And here are a couple of things that go along with that being divine in nature. We know. Sometimes we don't think we know. Sometimes it seems hard to reach. But we learn, and as we mature, and as we live a life in connection with Spirit, God, or Source, we know. We have the answer to our questions within us. Oh yes, we use the counsel of others. We learn from books and studies, but we know that knowing is within us. As God is all-knowing, we, as extensions of the divine, truly divine, know as well. We may have some trouble accessing that knowing, but we know. Another thing we do is that we claim the power that we have, or the power that we are, we could even say. And we find that we are unimaginably more powerful as we rest in Spirit and let Spirit work through us than we imagined we could be It certainly is true for me. Then also, we find that as an expression of the divine, we have the capability of doing something which has been difficult for me in the past, and that is to be present to the very moment that we are living in. Not to be focusing on the past, not to be looking ahead to the future, but to stay with the moment, to be present to that moment and also to all those around us. One of the biggest challenges for me is to be, because my mind tends to be going on and having a conversation, and to be truly present to the one with whom I'm conversing. But we have that capability because that is the very nature of the divine and our nature as well. We may have forgotten it. We may have put it aside. We may have not practiced it too much. But it is, in fact, our nature. So these are some of the truths. And if you hang around Unity very long, you're going to hear these truths again and others. I encourage you that this is a really base place. This is the starting point for gratitude and the outworking of gratitude in our lives in a very effective and very powerful way. So, knowing truth. Knowing the truth. Then next, gratitude for blessings and challenges. Easy to express gratitude for the blessings of the day. Fairly easy. If we keep it in awareness, we can do that. Some days are better than others, but when we're able to do that, we can be grateful for the blessings of each day, noting them. Perhaps, if you haven't thought to do this, at night is a really good time to note the blessings of the day. Take time to do that, or take time in the morning. You find the time that is yours. Blessings of the day. But there's also blessings that we're reaching for. Blessings that we see with eyes of faith in advance. So we look for those blessings as well. And when we do, we find that we draw situations and people into our life as we, in faith, are grateful for that which we desire, which we have been given a desire for, which just comes from within us. And then, of course, we are grateful, as Donna said last week, in everything. And this is the tough one. This is the cutting edge of gratitude. For in this place, we find it may be difficult, but when we're able to back away enough, get a little time space, have some hindsight, we realize that the truth we started with, all is good, God is good, is in fact true in our lives. Hard to recognize maybe at the time we're embroiled in a particular situation, but it is true. And then we get to gratitude with legs. I have to confess, Donna helped me with the legs here.
It's cute.
I never would have come up with them. So we're back to that principle that we started with, finding a tangible way to express the gratitude, the place of blessing, the experience of blessing in our lives, and putting legs to it and bringing it full circle. Because unless we get involved in the cyclical nature, we're going to miss out on so much. We're going to get bits and pieces, but we're not really going to get in that flow. We're not going to really get in this circle of gratitude and the circle of blessing. So let's figure out how do we do it. Well, there are two ways that I think we can put legs to our gratitude. And one you may be more familiar with than the other. First one is that you perhaps are inspired about something, inspired by some blessing, inspired by some other person, inspired by some situation in the world, and you have a passion about it. And when you do have a passion about it, you get active about it. Maybe you join together, band together with others in the community for some sort of service work because of an inspiration that comes up from within you, from a sense of calling, a sense of passion about that. Maybe you're in a recovery group where you support and give service to all the others in that group. Maybe you just start something of your own because you just have an urge within you to give because of a gratitude base that you have. And so in doing that, you begin to circle again and again and get into that circle, that flow of gratitude, which is the very flow of divine life. But there's another way in which you put legs to gratitude. And here it is. It's by stepping aside. So easy to go right at it. If you're like me, you focus on something, you're going to make it happen. And whatever is needed, nobody can work harder than I can. I am going to see this through. I am going to make it happen. But it's like that mountain that we talked about in the meditation. Maybe it's not ours to go over that mountain. Maybe it's ours to step aside, to step back, to allow the eternal flow of goodness to sweep us in a slightly different direction. This was brought very clearly home to me by Daniel's concert. Do you remember the song that Daniel sang of planting seeds? So he told us a bit of a story about that song. He had written that song many years ago, and there was a young fellow we didn't know at the time who was a top artist for Sony, a hip-hop artist. And this gentleman turned aside at the urging of Spirit, I guess, from this lucrative career to go to the land of his heritage, India, and start a school for children. Did that for 2 years. Turning aside from the bright lights. And when he did go, somebody at the last minute said, here's a CD you might want to take along with you. And he said, no, I'm putting music aside. I'm just going to give that a rest. But the CD stayed with him, and he began to listen to it. And it was Daniel Nehmad's CDs, and this song, Planting Seeds, really impacted him, planted some seeds in his life that allowed him to get through that time of service in great gratitude, even though he had turned his back on so many things. So Daniel told us, Daniel didn't know this until after the 2 years, and somebody said, I heard about this fellow who was listening to your CD, and Daniel got in touch with him. In fact, they've become collaborators, and so they now, well, I'm going to get to this, but they became collaborators with this song, and so there is a collaboration in which the hip-hop version of this song is also there. Both of them are together on the CD. It's wonderful. You just go Planting Seeds, Nimo Patel, Nimopatel, and you'll find it on YouTube. So, having this kind of thing, and Daniel had told me about some of the details of this as where he was packing up to go after everybody else had left. I was just thrilled by it. I went back to look at that song again, to listen to the YouTube version, and when I did, man, I just seized on that. And I said, boy, we got to have that in the Sunday service. It's going to go exactly where I want to go, because sometimes the planting seeds, the little things aren't what is a true expression of our gratitude. Sometimes the little things, the things that almost seem like a nothing, are where we need to be. So, but I focused on this, and I said, I'm going to make sure we get this in. And guess what? There were so many reasons in my way. There were a mountain of things in the way for me getting that into this presentation this morning. But I sure stayed with it for a long time. Kept knocking my head against that wall. In fact, being forceful, being willful as I was, I came to a very dark place. A place where I could hardly be very grateful. It was tough to do gratitudes last night. The wonder of sleep and of the communication with the divine during that sleep really helped with that. And I was able to let go and allow that turning aside, that shifting my direction, that going with a flow that was beyond me. Not sure I've learned it entirely, but boy, it sure seemed to work for me last night and this morning. And I want to urge you that sometimes turning aside may be putting legs to your gratitude. Instead of forging ahead, turning aside. So, in the end, I want to share with you that song. I'm just going to do it by reading the words on it, not by playing the MP4 that I downloaded and tried to get to go into a PowerPoint suggestion. So the first part is what Nemo added to what Daniel Nehemiah had started. I spent a long time running. I'm not going to rap, per se. I'm just going to do the lyrics. I spent a long time running. I never knew then what I know now, that the fruits, they're always coming. But you can't go around just knocking them down. It takes a long time showing. We plant the seeds then and we look at them now, but the roots are always growing, no matter if I'm there or never around. And then Daniel's words, and you'll see him singing in the CD, and in the video. Whatever grows will grow. Whatever dies will die. Whatever works will work. Whatever flies will fly. Whatever fails will fail. What's meant to soar will soar. I am planting seeds, nothing more. And then Nemo goes on to wrap it up, and I just love the truth that I have learned from this rapper. I never would have thought. It's like your whole life you've been training for this moment. And when the time comes, you just disown it. Meaning you just surrender, don't control it. Not interested in the clay pots and molding, or sitting next to the path trying to unfold it, or waiting for the fruits to fall down toward you. You let it go. And now you're flowing, feeling quite gorgeous. So you take steps away instead of steps toward it. What a rush. Feeling freedom with nothing to hold. We've been taught that what you touch will always turn to gold, but now we're learning when we let it go, it overflows with no credit to take, because no credit is owned. A higher power working deeper when the seeds are sowed, and when the seeds are true, then they're seeds of gold. But the real gold is joy when life starts to flow, and when it does, you just smile, because now you know. So there it is. Give your gratitude some legs by planting seeds and moving forward as you're passionately inspired to do both. The two go together. Just recapping. You want a full gratitude practice? You want a life characterized by gratitude? Expand your knowing of the truth. Cultivate gratitude for blessings and for challenges. And give your grateful heart legs that walk both toward and away. And so it is.
You rewrote your talk, huh?